we don't have much time to act. 40%. It is a percentage of the world's ocean surfaces occupied by plastic today. 8 trillion kilograms of plastic in the ocean. At current rates, plastic is expected to outweigh all the fish in the sea by 2050. Our planet is dying. We are in a tragic situation. Plastics pollution has a direct and deadly effects on wildlife. Thousands of seabirds, sea turtles, seals, and other marine mammals are killed each year after ingesting plastic or getting entangled in it. Endangered wildlife like Hawaiian monk seals and Pacific loggerhead sea turtles are among nearly 700 species that eat and get caught in plastic litter. This issue also concerns us directly. Indeed, traces of plastic in the fish that we have eaten can end up in our bodies and cause diseases. We are all concerned, and the current situation is alarming. We are surrounded by plastic. It's in the single-use packaging we discard, the consumer goods that fill our stores, and in our clothing, which sheds microplastic fibers in the wash. In the first decade of this century, we made more plastic than all the plastic in history up to the year 2000. And every year, billions of kilograms of more plastic end up in the world's oceans. Studies estimate there are now 51 trillion pieces of plastic in the world's oceans, from the equator to the poles, from Arctic ice sheets to the seafloor. Not 1 square mile of surface ocean anywhere on Earth is free of plastic pollution. Unfortunately, plastic is so durable that the Environmental Protection Agency reports every bit of plastic ever made still exists. All 5 of the Earth's major ocean gyres are inundated with plastic pollution.
But how does plastic end up in the sea? Every year, about 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans, which is equal to 5 bags filled with plastic growing along every foot of coastline in the world. According to Plastic Ocean, a non-profit organization, by 2025 they estimate the annual input will be about twice that. But how exactly so much plastic and waste ends up in the waters, and what happens to the plastic once it's tapped away by the ocean currents? Let's use a plastic bag to illustrate this. This is just one of the many scenarios of how plastic could end up in our waters. After throwing out your plastic grocery bag, it ends up in a landfill and can be swept away by the wind, landing in the river, which flows out to sea. The ocean currents may push the plastic bag to what we call a gyre. This is like a large slow-moving whirlpool in the ocean. When garbage enters the gyre, it's slowly pulled into the center where they form a huge garbage patch. And while the plastic gets sucked in, it breaks down into thousands of floating pieces that we call microplastics. There are 5 giant garbage patches located in the North Atlantic, the South Atlantic, the North Pacific, the South Pacific, and the Indian Ocean. The biggest of the garbage patches is the North Pacific garbage patch between Hawaii and California. It is accumulating trash faster than ever and is now 3 times the size of France. The patch can contain 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic, which equals to 250 pieces for every human being in the world. The total amounts to 80,000 tons. That's equal to 2 Titanics. And how did we discover those garbage patches? The first gyre discovered was the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the largest one now, while oceanographers and climatologists predicted the existence of the giant garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. It was a racing boat captain by the name of Charles Maury who actually discovered the trash vortex. crossing the North Pacific subtropical gyre. Moore and his crew noticed billions of pieces of plastic surrounding his ship in 1997.
80% of the plastic in the ocean is estimated to come from land-based sources, with the remaining 20% coming from boats and other marine sources. A 2018 study found that synthetic fishing nets made up nearly half the mass of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Plastics make up the majority of marine debris for two reasons. First, plastic's durability, low cost, and malleability mean that it's being used in more and more consumer and industrial products. Second, plastic goods do not biodegrade but instead break down into smaller pieces. For many people, the idea of a garbage patch conjures up images of an island of trash floating on the ocean. In reality, these patches are almost entirely made of tiny bits of plastic, called microplastics, invisible to the naked eye. The seafloor beneath the Great Pacific Garbage Patch may also be another water trash heap. Oceanographers and ecologists recently discovered that about 70% of marine debris actually sinks to the bottom of the ocean. They can be very harmful to marine life in the gyre. For instance, loggerhead sea turtles often mistake plastic bags for jellies, their favorite food. Albatrosses mistake plastic resin pellets for fish eggs and feed them to chicks, which die of starvation or ruptured organs. Seals and other marine mammals get regularly entangled in abandoned plastic fishing nets, which are being discarded largely due to inclement weather and illegal fishing. Marine debris can also disturb marine food webs. As microplastics and other trash collect on or near the surface of the ocean, they block sunlight from reaching plankton and algae below. There are organisms that can produce their own nutrients from carbon and sunlight. If those communities are threatened, the entire food web may change. Animals that feed on algae and plankton, such as fish and turtles, will have less food. If populations of those animals decrease, there will be less food for predators such as tuna, sharks, and whales. Eventually, seafood becomes less available and more expensive for people. These dangers are compounded by the fact that plastics both leach out and absorb harmful pollutants. As plastics break down through photodegradation, they leach out colorants and chemicals that have been linked to environmental and health problems. Conversely, plastics can also absorb pollutants from the seawater. These chemicals can then enter the food chain when consumed by marine life.
We have to change the situation. But what can be done to stop this pollution? Because the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is so far from any country's coastline, no nation will take responsibility or provide the funding to clean it up. Cleaning up a garbage patch would bankrupt any country that tried it. Many individuals and international organizations, however, are dedicated to preventing the patch from growing too much. Cleaning up marine debris is not as easy as it sounds. Many microplastics are the same size as small sea animals, so nets designed to scoop up trash will catch them as well. Even if we could design nets that would just catch garbage, the size of the oceans makes this job far too time-consuming to be done. Estimation says that it will take 67 ships in 1 year to clean up less than 1% of the North Pacific Ocean. This plastic pollution problem inspired the company Sea Cleaner and the sailor Yvan Bourgnon to create a large sea cleaning boat, the Manta. The boat imitates a manta ray, a large ray found in tropical waters. It collects plastic with conveyor belts and nets designed to avoid catching fish. Every bit of waste is treated on the boat, melting the plastic, transformed into gas, and then reused as energy to move the boat forward. Scientists and explorers agree that limiting or eliminating our use of disposable plastics and increasing our use of biodegradable resources will be the best way to clean up our ocean. It is not all about the environmental problems, but also the poverty problem. Indeed, 80% of ocean plastic is coming from those countries that have poverty. Recycling is beyond the realm of imagination for those people. So, to counter this problem, in some parts of the world, people living in poverty have the opportunity to collect plastic and bring it to an organization in exchange for money. In this way, value is given to the plastic by recycling it.
We can also take action at our own level to clean up the oceans. In the description, you can find a petition from the Center for Biological Diversity for the Environmental Protection Agency to take action. It is also important to recycle our waste and to buy products without plastic packaging. It's not too late. Let's stop using plastic.